For young drivers dreaming of a career in Formula One, the final step on the ladder is the GP2 Championship, now beginning its 4th season here on Speed. Welcome to the season opener, the feature race from the Spanish Grand Prix weekend in Barcelona, Spain. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs and Steve Matchett. Glad to have you with us once again for GP2. 4 years ago, this series was created to replace Formula 3000 as the primary support series for Formula One. And in its first 3 seasons here on Speed, GP2 has spawned the careers of nearly 1/3 of the drivers on the F1 grid, while at the same time giving us some of the wildest wheel-to-wheel racing you'll see anywhere. Now, knowing that a Grand Prix career may lie just around the corner for these young drivers, here's a look at our picks as the men to watch in 2008. With champion Timo Glock now in F1 with Toyota, and Andy Zuber moving on to a new team for 2008, both seats at the championship-winning iSport team opened up in the off-season and were snapped up by Bruno Senna and Karin Shandok. The 07 season looked promising for Senna, who lay second in the championship after winning the feature race in Spain. But his season then took a nosedive due to misfortune and mistakes, especially in qualifying. The Brazilian has shown flashes of real speed and racecraft, and with iSport behind him, the nephew of 3-time world champion Ayrton Senna will likely be a contender.
His teammate Karin Shandok may have been the most improved driver of 2007. It took the Indian 14 of the 21 races before posting his first points finish for the struggling Durango team. But before the season was done, he put together 4 consecutive points finishes, including a sprint race win in Belgium. At iSport, the young Indian could produce a breakthrough season.
Last season's 3rd place finisher, Luca Filippi, finds himself in a very good position to challenge this year. Filippi joins the 2-time championship-winning ART Grand Prix team after a very successful 07 campaign with Supernova. Filippi scored 1 win amongst his 6 podium finishes with 2 poles, but a string of unforced errors kept the Italian from being a serious title threat. Filippi begins his 3rd season in GP2, and if he wants to make the jump to F1, well, 2008 may be his last shot.
PK Sports is another team looking to return to former glory by signing 2 talented drivers in Venezuelan Pastor Maldonado and Austrian Andy Zuber. Both have shown race-winning ability, but each has also suffered moments of poor judgment. Expect both to win a race or 2, and if the team can provide them with proper support, particularly when it comes to race strategy, both men could challenge for the title.
Vitaly Petrov also begins his 3rd season as a GP2 driver. And if his late season pace of a year ago and his consistency during the recent GP2 Asia series are any indication of what's to come, the Russian may have an outside shot at this year's title. But in order to do so, he must hope that his Campos racing team continues to make technical progress as they did in 07.
There are plenty of dark horses in this year's field for Javier Villa and his racing engineering teammate Giorgio Pantano. They'll start his 100th race at this level this season to reach the podium and possibly take a win or 2. F1 test drivers Kamui Kobayashi and Sebastian Buemi should be quick and each have previous GP2 experience. Several young drivers could shake up the established order as well. Alvaro Parent has been fast in everything he has ever driven, and Campos Racing's Ben Hanley showed competitive speed in winter testing.
Then there is the one newcomer who finds himself in the unusual position of being title favorite in his rookie season. Renault development driver Romain Grosjean. The Frenchman dominated the GP2 Asia Series this past winter with 4 wins, 4 poles, and 5 podium finishes. Ironically, Grosjean's career achievements thus far almost mirror those of a previous GP2 champion, McLaren Formula One star Lewis Hamilton. With the proven ART team and Renault behind him, Grosjean has the tools to win the championship and will go to the opening weekend in Spain as well. There you have it on a beautiful day at Barcelona. 2.89-mile track. We do have some new cars this year built by Dallara, still dimensionally the same size as Formula One cars with a lot of high technology, but they run on slick Bridgestone tires, everyone on the same tire. And this will be the feature race, 39 laps with a mandatory pit stop and at least 2 tire change.
It always seemed a bit of an anomaly to me that these guys run on slicks when the Formula One cars run on groove tires. But of course, next year, Formula One will be back to slicks, so these guys are heading the charge for the future.
Final handshakes from the crew for the men in the race cars. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll set the grid and turn them loose. Opening race of 08 for GP2. Welcome back. There's a look at Alvaro Parente, one of the many new faces in the GP2 championship for 2008. And he's off to a great start on the front row for his new Supernova team. There you see the field lined up. As we get set.
Field too.
It is 26 cars strong. Pole sitter Pastor Maldonado, a little slow getaway. Do we have Andy Zuber? He's rolling. Have been known to have some exciting starts here in GP2. Here's the lineup for today's race. On the pole, Pastor Maldonado of Venezuela, who has switched to the PK Sports this team, and he was dominant in qualifying, just as he was a year ago in Monaco when he won from pole. Next to him, the man you saw as we came to air, Alvaro Parente of Portugal, the rookie for Supernova.
Lining up third, Andreas Zuber, who hopes to get a better start than he just did then, with a win and a pole from iSport team last year, now with PK Sport. Next to Bruno Senna, who is now with iSport, also won here last year, but had a really good year in Formula 3 in 06.
On row 3, Giorgio Pantano of Italy for Racing Engineering started at this level of motorsports when most of his rivals in the field today were in diapers. It's his 10th start at Barcelona, and he's a two-time winner here in Formula 3000. Next to the Italian, Adrian Baez of Spain for FMS International, a team owned by Formula 1 star Giancarlo Fisichella.
Karen Shandok, Senna's iSport teammate, lines up 7th. The very first Indian driver to win at this level at Spa last year, next to the Russian Vitaly Petrov with the Bawa International Campos, who also had a win here in Formula 3000 in 06.
On row 5, Javier Villa of Spain for the second Racing Engineering car. His third season, he'll want to move on. He'll begin it with his first ever top 10 start. Next to him, Mike Conway of Great Britain for Trident, who hopes to do better than he did here a year ago when he retired at turn 1, lap 1.
As we said at the beginning, the ART car of Romain Grosjean comes in as a series favorite, not looking too good at the moment. 2008 GP2 Asia Series champion and 2007 Euro Formula 3 champ, alongside newcomer David Valsecchi, 21-year-old Italian with one win at Nürburgring in the World Series last year.
On row 7, Kamui Kobayashi of Japan for DAMS, a test driver for the Formula 1 Toyota team, coming off a couple of wins in the GP2 Asia Series. He's the first Japanese driver ever to win at this level. Next to him, veteran Italian Luca Filippi with ART Grand Prix in his 50th GP2 start.
Ben Hanley of Britain makes his GP2 debut for Bawa International Campos. Next, Chinese driver Ho Bin Tung, now starting his second GP2 year.
On row 9, Alberto Valerio of Brazil, the 05 South American Formula 3 champion for Durango, next to Jelmer Boerman of the Netherlands with Trust Team Arden, who did a great job during the Asian GP2 season as a replacement driver.
Christian Baccarat of Denmark, driving for Supernova, scored 0 points last year for DPM. Next to Sebastian Buemi, still only 19, had a lackluster season last year with ART.
On row 11, Milos Pavlovic of Serbia, next to Jerome D'Ambrosio of Belgium for DAMS.
Row 12, the BCN competition car of Paolo Dontiera, Italian Formula 3 champ last year, next to Roldan Rodriguez with FMS.
And on the 13th and final row, the two Dave Price racing cars. Diego Nunez, who won here at Italian F3000 in 07, driving for the Minardi team. Next to him, Giacomo Ricci, who had a taste of Atlantic racing with the Conquest team in North America. He's a replacement driver in for injured starter Michael Herf, who we'll see later on in the season. That's your starting grid. We'll be back. Welcome back to Barcelona. While we were away, that man, Milos Pavlovic, stalled on the grid, so they sent the cars around. We'll take one lap off of the total laps scheduled for the race. We're now 38 laps with mandatory pit stop, and the field is ready to go. Here come the lights for the GP2 opener. Pastor Maldonado to the right, slow getaway, and he gets absolutely eaten up by the field. Alvaro Parente in that blue, black and yellow car, the Supernova machine, takes the early lead.
Zuber lines second now.
Zuber locks him up. It looks like Maldonado finally got away, but he is well at the back of the field, along with Pavlovic.
Now, these guys in qualifying yesterday having a lot of trouble getting heat into these hard compound tires, so they need to be very aware of that during this opening lap of the 38-lap race distance.
On board with Romain Grosjean. A lot expected of this rookie in GP2 this year.
Oh, guy in front smoking. That one, it's not so much smoke, I think it's water.
Well, we had about 6 cars either blow their engines or suffer engine damage during qualifying. Grosjean looks very unsteady. Is that him getting past left and right? Javier Villa was the car we saw smoking from this man, Grosjean's car. He's having problems on this opening lap.
See the oil, a lot of oil coming out onto the
Whoa, look at his left front tire.
Yeah, he's got fluid on the left front.
Yeah.
Left front tire is absolutely glistening.
Petrov goes by. Here comes Grosjean's teammate, Luca Filippi. Through the chicane for the first time. Through the New Holland corner, and they'll swing.
Oh!
That's Filippi, who gets hip checked. Somebody else has gone off nearer the camera. There's the order, finishing the first green flag lap. Grosjean falls back to 9th.
There's a lot of blue smoke coming out of these cars, which is oil smoke. I wonder whether or not...
Oh, God, you can see that coming a mile.
Ben Handley spun. We got someone in the wall.
Somebody up here. This is Mike Conway right in front of the pit.
Oh, off at the first turn last year, off at the end of the first green flag lap this year. Poor Mike Conway.
Let's have another look at the start.
Oh,
Maldonado.
Maldonado stalls.
Oh, I bet Conway ran into him.
Watches his teammate Andy Zuber just gets around Maldonado.
Oh my gosh, that Maldonado must be just holding himself there. No, nobody hit him. Zuber locking up there big time going into turn 1.
See if there's contact back here.
No, they all got through
Pretty
it
clean,
well.
yep. Now here was the contact in the chicane at the end of lap 2. Filippi. It was Conway into Filippi. That explains Conway's problems on the front stretch. This is a replay of Christian Backerud and Ben Handley getting together.
Oh, boy.
No, Hope in Tongue? No, that's not correct. It's not Tongue. Whew, back to live action.
Yeah.
So Alvaro Parente, the reigning champion of the World Series by Renault, gets a dream start. Now here comes the safety car. They'll bunch him up. There's a look at the running order. Parente, Zuber, Senna, Chandok, everybody coming in. And I think this is smart strategy, David.
Well, you've got to make a pit stop somewhere in this first race, and so obviously under the caution period is obviously the best time to do it. Would he change all 4 or just 2 tires? On the other hand, you know, you've got a lot of race left. There's Mike Conway looking a bit disconsolate. But he did go down the inside there, looking a bit desperate. Yeah, there's his right front suspension, which he clipped him with.
That's somebody up at the top of the hill. I wonder what that was all about. I'm not sure what it was.
Well, it looked pretty bad when it went off the road.
Safety car was a little slow to get away, too. I mean, the safety car signal came out. Oh, I see. The car waited in the pit out because the leader came in.
Of course, the downside of coming in this early with just 2 laps done, of course, is that you've got to do the whole race now on the new tires.
Yeah.
Gueme, D'Ambrosio, Filippi, and now Rodriguez.
Now remember, this is a requirement of the sporting regulations in GP2 that you have to make one mandatory pit stop. And as you guys were saying, I'm sure this is why they're coming into the pits now, to get that out of the way. But you're right, there's a long way to go on this set of tires now.
There's Christian Backerud, who was involved in this turn 1. Shamazel. Pow. Pretty much blocked the track, too. Whoa! We didn't see that part previously. That was Roldan Rodriguez doing the flying trapeze act. That might have been Hope in Tongue, which explains why we got the graphic. And look at the action in the pit lane.
Yeah, very busy in the pits.
Wow.
There's Bruno Senna. Oh, it's a crowded pit lane. Easy, boys.
Yeah. And you know, guys, this is something we've seen last year. It isn't just a learning curve for the drivers, it's a learning curve for the team, the engineers, and the mechanics too. We saw a lot of rookie mistakes last year in the pit, so they just need to calm down and get used to how to work with the pressure of a race happening around them.
Well, of course, that's suddenly that pit lane too. You know, you got to fit 26 cars in instead of 20, which makes a big difference.
Man, look at rush hour. A couple of changes in position on the pit stop rotation. As soon as timing and scoring settles out, we'll let you know. What a wild start to the GP2 season.
Well, they always are wild, these starts.
On board Grosjean.
A lot of people think this kid really has what it takes to go all the way. So that's Roldan Rodriguez at the front of the queue. I believe he's a lap down.
He got involved in that fracas at turn 1 there and got turfed into the gravel trap big time, so he stopped straight away.
Whoa, and somebody else has overstepped the bounds of traction. That's Giacomo Ricci.
This is on cold tires on the pace lap behind the safety car. Always a good sign of the driver's skills.
Well, like they're up, are you saying?
There it is.
There we go.
We were just talking about that at the top of the shop there when we came on, that it's hard compound, and you know, they were struggling in qualifying to get the heat in, and it ain't going to change today, especially when you're running behind the safety car. You need to be aware of that. You need to keep heating the tire.
Well, in fairness to the drivers too, everybody changes the rears, so you may have warm tires on the front, cold on the rear, the front grips, and the back chases the front. So there's your race leader, Alvaro Parente. Bruno Senna picked up a spot on the pit stop rotation. And Zuber drops back to third. There are your numbers. Montano fourth, and Petrov, Vaez, Buemi, Kobayashi. They've all got their stops done. Well, there the safety car picks up the leader, Parente. Curran Shandok was the odd man out, the iSport team. Here you see Senna leaving, and they had to stack Shandok slightly. Our other car is here.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. You know, it's a steep learning curve for everybody. Be aware that there are 2 cars running for each team there, and you need to be aware what's happening in the pits.
Boy, it is a narrow pit lane here as well. Well, there's a little taste of GP2 in a nutshell. We're already 4 laps into this race. We've had multiple crashes, pit stops, and a long way to go. Stay with us. Welcome back to the GP2 season opener from Barcelona. The 38-lap feature race to be followed by the sprint race. We'll have highlights of that later on. The safety car is now off after 4 laps on track. Ready to go green once again. Alvaro Parente is the leader over Bruno Senna, Andy Zuber, Giorgio Pantano, then Vitaly Petrov, Adrian Vaez, Sebastian Buemi, and Kamui Kobayashi. Here comes Senna looking around the outside of Parente. See if everybody can get through the first turn complex here intact this time. The big winner on those rounds of pit stops was Buemi, who's now up in the top 8, 7th to be precise. He started 20th, coming back from a big crash in qualifying, took advantage of the yellow period, got his pit stop done, and made a big jump in the running order.
He did. A lot of people made a pit stop. The pit lane was pretty frantic there, but he obviously managed to get away with it. And as you say, he's up to 7th from 20th on the grid, so that's a pretty good run for him. Bruno Senna started in 4th spot, now up to 2nd. Zuber right behind him, who led briefly.
Buemi's big advantage, he was right at the back of the grid when the safety car was announced, when we saw the graphic, and he was just perfectly positioned to dive in and take full advantage of that perfect period.
Oh, Vitaly Petrov dueling with Vaez. Petrov kind of outbroke himself there. Outbroke. Look at these guys all over each other. You notice the cars have few of the aerodynamic appendages that their Formula One big brothers use. They have 4-liter Renault V8 engines making about 450 horsepower, about 300 to 350 less than the Formula One cars, but Pastor Maldonado's pole time on this track just 6.7 seconds slower than Kimi Raikkonen's Formula One pole position time for the Spanish Grand Prix. So these are very quick cars.
Yeah. And that new car.
Grosjean going down the inside.
Oh, that was close.
It was very close. That was Curran Shandok he got by. Shandok luckily gave him room. That was a bit of a ballsy move. For 8th, moves him up to 8th now, Romain Grosjean.
Stringing out a bit up front. But boy, oh boy, they are all over each other here in mid-pack.
Yeah.
Well, you don't often see people overtaking each other going through that corner.
Javier Villa going backwards. Remember, he was smoking before the safety car came out. Put a lot of oil on the visor of Romain Grosjean. On board Grosjean, let's see what he does here. Jukes out of line, going past Chandok, and that's how close it was.
Chan.
Yeah. Very
Now,
nice.
when Hanley got hung up there with Baccarat earlier on, you'll see that that sort of move was not made. He went down the inside and got smashed into.
Oh, no, what was that?
What is that all about?
Yelmer Berman, I think. Off the final corner. That safety car was a huge help for Pastor Maldonado. Dominant pole sitter, but stalled at the start of this race. He's trying to work his way forward. They saw him in 16th place out of the 26 starters. 2 cars that we know of out of the race at this point. Roldan Rodriguez
Look
and
at that
Hope
concertina effect there.
They do. They really close up fast, don't they?
Whoa.
Would this be a lesson to Formula One? Fewer aerodynamic appendages on the car, allow them to run closer together. These cars have slick tires, as we pointed out, from Bridgestone. Next year, Formula One cars will as well.
Yeah, they run in on those slick tires, Bob, and they've also got that slight ground effect, which Formula One cars don't have. You see that white strip very close to the track, which gives them a little bit extra aerodynamic grip. But a brand new car for this year as well, Dallara, and they've got more downforce on the car. It's a very nice looking machine, actually.
It is. Paddle shift.
Well, the big advantage they got over Formula One is they have that ground effect caused by the tunnel underneath, which does allow you to have closer racing. I don't know why Formula One don't follow that example.
As Giorgio Pantano closing in on Andy Zuber for 3rd. Pantano, vastly experienced, 100 starts at this level. When he began his go-kart career in Italy, some of the drivers in this field, like Sebastian Buemi, the teenager, weren't even born.
I don't quite know what he gets out of it himself, but probably enjoys a good Sunday out or a Saturday afternoon run.
Right, he's going to be in the ranks of gentleman drivers shortly. Buemi looking back at Romain Grosjean for 7th place.
Nice shot of the rear wing. You'll notice no central strut like a lot of Formula One cars work. So the load is carried down through the end plates here and here. So it keeps this section of the car open. So control the airflow going back to that lower element on the car, and a nice clean airflow to the top.
It's an updated look at the top 8. Grosjean trying to claw his way back. They've all stopped, so they're on equal ground from that perspective.
And Dallara have been very clever with the design of this car, that because everybody's using equal equipment and the best way to get better rating out of that, they said they deliberately made it an awkward car to set up to get the best out of the drivers and the best out of the engineers. It's not an easy car to work with, but when you get it right, it'll be fast.
Grosjean smoking there. These are the 2 drivers who finished 2-1 in the points in the GP2 Asia Series, a 5-round winter championship using last year's GP2 cars. Many of these drivers took part in that series. Back on board with Grosjean.
See that oil again, look, spattering onto the camera lens from the car ahead.
Tell you what, he doesn't come off that corner quite as well, which is bad because he needs the draft, which he's getting, but he comes off too far behind.
The graphic updated what I told you earlier. 4 cars in all out of the race. Rodriguez, Tung, Conway, and Pavlovic. Distinctive engine note from these V8 engines using an 8-into-1 exhaust system. Kamui Kobayashi, there you see him closing up on that battle. A terrific young Japanese driver. Toyota young driver. He's been doing some testing for their Formula One team. Won a couple of rounds of the Asian Championship, the first by a Japanese driver.
Kobayashi was the only guy other than Grosjean to win more than twice in the GP2 Asia Series that we've just had. But Grosjean, I feel, is quicker than Buemi here, and he'll be looking in that mirror thinking, God, I need to get around this guy quickly, because I think Buemi's holding him up a bit. Yeah. Is he going to ever go down into La Caixa?
Too far back, I think.
Oh, well, he's much quicker at first sector, first apex, but not much he can do there. Where he needs to be quick is through the next... He needs to be quick through the chicane that's coming up. Well, he needs to be quick on the exit. Don't rush it in, don't rush in, slow back a bit, then come off quick. And then try and grab that draft down his long straight. He's a bit closer this time.
Is he going to try now, Dave, at the end of the straight?
And I think that's fired. Here he goes.
Adrian Baez, Valery Petrov. Vitaly Petrov, that is. I need to work on my Russian. This is back to the battle.
Grosjean wasn't able to pull it off that time, but look at Kobayashi getting right up to them. Now just about a second behind, if that.
Well, that more than anything tells you that Buemi is holding up Grosjean.
I would say so.
Car looks a lot like a Force India Formula One car. That's because Carlo Fisichella, Force India driver, owns the FMS team.
Vitaly Petrov trying to get around the Spaniard Baez. Of course, he's bound and determined to keep him behind in front of his home crowd.
Once again this year, there is a 2-point bonus for taking pole. That has already gone to Pastor Maldonado. There is a bonus championship point for fast lap of the race. We'll be checking those stats hopefully later on. But because everybody has made their pit stop early, normally we'll see somebody make a late pit stop if they know they're not going to score in the points, the top 10 finishing positions, and go for that bonus point for fast lap. We'll see if anybody does it in this opening round of 2008. They'll have to make an extra pit stop to do it.
Vitaly Petrov, who is watching here, try to get around Spaniard Adrian Baez, did in fact win in Spain last year at Valencia. It was his one and only win last year. So he is bound and determined to try and get around Baez. He's really behind now. Now, good draft. But still, it's awfully hard to come behind, even that close behind, because these cars are so equal.
On board with Grosjean again. He's dropped back a little bit now. I wonder if his engine's losing power. We saw it smoking earlier. And remember, he blew one up in qualifying. Another thing about these young drivers is they're taught to be quick quickly. You get very little practice time, stuck straight into qualifying, and then you race twice on the weekend, so you have to get up to speed quickly.
Locking up that left front a lot there. That divert. This is an important corner, this, because it's this uphill climb here, the quick sweep at the top of the hill. Yeah, there is something coming out of that car in front of me. You can see it on that lens on the camera.
That was the corner where Buemi up ahead crashed in qualifying yesterday. The other thing to note about the finish order for this race is the top 8 will form the first 4 rows of the grid for the sprint finale, but they will be inverted. So the 8th place finisher will start from pole for the sprint finale, which runs 26 laps without a mandatory pit stop.
Boy, he's not quite close enough, I don't think. He's getting a good draft, but he's just too far back. He needs to come out of that chicane better. Buemi is rather subject to mistakes, so Grosjean's probably hoping if he can give him a real push, he might make a mistake.
He needs to get closer to push him, but maybe he can't because of whatever's coming out of Buemi's car. 24 laps to go. We'll take this opportunity for a break with a look at our top 8 here in the opening round of the GP2 Championship for 08. Welcome back to sunny Spain. The Circuit de Catalunya in extreme northeastern Spain, not far from beautiful Barcelona. Opening round of the GP2 Championship on speed. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs, Steve Matchett on board with Romain Grosjean. Preseason favorite coming in, got off to a bad start. He currently runs 8th behind young Swiss Sebastian Buemi.
The only good side of that, of course, is tomorrow he'd be on the pole if the race finished like this right now. looking at that. Yeah, locks up the left front again.
Oh, Ben Hanley. He's had his share of collisions already this morning. He got together with Christian Baccarud. This looks potentially terminal.
Yeah, it does.
But if they think they can get it fixed and can put fresh tires on it, he could pick up a point for fast lap. Now here is D'Ambrosio. Looks like they're going to push him off, becoming the 5th car out of the race. Here's why. That's D'Ambrosio, who center punches Jelmer Burman and then is very slow off the corner. Watch one of the Durango cars. Well, you won't see it, but one of the Durango cars went driver's right, shortened up the chicane. Valsecchi. David Valsecchi took the position, and then D'Ambrosio took the opportunity to hit the pit lane.
It was Kobayashi going wide, so that'll lose his momentum in his chase for Romain Grosjean. Alvarez shutting the door. Shutting the door on Petrov, but to no avail unless Petrov outbreaks himself here. That was a good pass. Boy, he pushed him well over there, though.
Well, I think Vitaly Petrov probably is the front runner for most improved driver. He really has come a long way in terms of competitiveness over the last just half season.
Now that was a good pass.
Be a good thing for Russia.
Grosjean's car is definitely smoking. I wonder if he's a bit down on power.
It's smoking, Dave, but there's a lot of smoke coming out of all of these cars, but it's out the breather rather than the exhaust, isn't it? I don't know whether or not they just overfilled the lumps going into the race.
Baez moving over about now. He sees him coming. Moves him right over to the edge, but wow, look at that.
Yeah. Let's have another look at it.
Petrov came off that last chicane very well, was tucked right under his wing, so got a huge draft down that long straight into turn 1.
And that's what you've been talking about before. You've got to get a good exit out of that last chicane coming onto the start-finish straight.
Buemi and Grosjean still for 7th place.
And he can see that Kobayashi behind him. Kobayashi lost a bit of ground on that last lap by going very wide, but still in all, he's still lurking there. The front 4 just separated big time. It's amazing that Senna can't make ground. Zuber there. And Giorgio Pantano. Hey. Vitaly Petrov rushing up. Oh, no, now he's got it now. Right, got him now. Can he do it? Can he do it? No! Wow. Whoa, yes!
Oh, wait a minute there, young Sebastian.
Now, what do the sporting regs say about that, gentlemen?
I think he's going to have to let him go by.
Yeah, I think he'll have to let him go.
There you go.
I think Buemi realized that he had shortened up that complex and he had to give the position.
They wouldn't do that in American racing.
Hats off to Buemi for sportsmanship.
Yeah. Outbreaks himself here.
Yeah, see?
Good. That's the cut across the corner there.
See the competitive advantage he gets.
Yes.
And listen to the engine. Okay, I'll just slow down, let him by. That's from Grosjean's view. Now, I wonder if Grosjean picked up any clag out there in the outside
of course,
line.
down on that infield there will be a lot of clag lying just right there where it's all swept off onto the infield there. So his tyres will be letting him down for the next corner or so.
Well, this was a packed house for Formula One qualifying. A lot of folks have left, and they're going to be sorry when they hear about this race. Meanwhile, up front, Álvaro Parente sailing along in his GP2 debut. Behind him, another Portuguese speaker, but from Brazil, Bruno Senna.
And here comes Vitaly Petrov. Look how much he's pulled out on Adrian Baez since he got by him. Now Romain Grosjean moving in on Adrian Baez.
Very different front end on this year's car. Much lower nose, different revised front
Formula
wing.
One looking, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, yeah. And when they were testing it, they said they had a lot of trouble with the steering rack vibrating loose and the bearings in the front uprights vibrating loose.
Other than that, nothing to worry about at all.
No, it was perfectly okay.
The steering rack's coming up. Oh, is that all? Good.
That was after the clutch kept breaking.
Oh, it's a typical mechanic's comment. It's the steering rack's coming off, son. So just, if you feel it getting a bit loose, just
back off a bit.
Let me, yes, back off a bit.
Just hold it in place. That's why you have two hands, right?
Yeah, well, Delara claim they've got it fixed now. That's good to hear.
You can do the lock nut with your foot while you're just going down the straight. That'd be good too.
We've included a spanner in your overalls, right, Podium?
hold it with your knees.
Senna now moving in on Parente. Yeah, around that last chicane. Yeah, he's coming up there, but Parente moves away a little bit there. He's going to get a good draft. Not good enough.
It's closer than 4/10.
Parente's car looks slightly quicker down the straight, isn't it, than Senna's, because Senna should close that gap a little bit in the draft. Oh, who's that? That's
That's Jelmer Burman, the tall Dutchman.
He's the guy that just got involved with D'Ambrosio, who is already out too, isn't he? With his, when they clipped going through that chicane. I wonder if that's a result of that.
Team Arden, owned by Red Bull Formula One director Christian Horner.
Kovalainen drove for them. Got him going into Formula One. Christian Horner used to go to school with my young godson Daniel Sarding at Warwick in England.
Somebody's engine sounds a little off song. It's beginning to stream out a little bit. Everybody taking a deep breath, getting ready for the last 19 laps of the feature race for the GP2 Championship at Barcelona. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to the GP2 feature race from Barcelona here on Speed with Stephen Matchett and David Hobbs. I'm Bob Varsha.
David Hobbs.
You're right, David Hobbs.
Oh, look at that now. He comes off there really well behind him.
Who does? Romain Grosjean.
Grosjean. Get a good toe down here off Adrian Valles, who tried to hold off Vitaly Petrov at the same spot. He's going to have to go around the outside. He's going to have to go the long way around. Oh,
there you go.
Yes, very nice.
Perfect. Very good. Nice move. Old Valles. Poor old Valles, doesn't matter which side of the road he goes on, the guy behind him gets around him. So I need to go back to the drawing board on this one. Now, what do I do here? I'll go down to the corner. I cover the inside. The pilot goes around the outside. Now you can see how much Vitaly Petrov has got on Valles. Here we see it again. So Valles goes well over to here. Now he's not going down the inside again. I'm not having that going. Oh well. Goes down the outside. Outside passes are always difficult to pull off, but he does a nice job there. Because Valles was so far over there, he was probably on some clag and rolled up rubber and stuff like that. So not the best place to be braking hard. Now the interesting thing is Grosjean going to be able to catch up with Vitaly Petrov, who also dusted off Valles at that same spot just a few laps ago, pulled out a big lead. Grosjean, I think, is probably one of the quicker cars on the track at the moment.
Adrian Valles is going to want to hang on to a points-paying position. He hasn't scored in the European GP2 Championship in 2 years, since Valencia back in 2006.
That is a fine record.
But we talk about it all the time. I mean, this is a development series, so for someone like a Giorgio Pantano to spend 100 races at this level.
Well, if you do it for 2 years and you still got no points, I would say you're not developing.
Yes.
So,
way to cut to the quick.
I think you should probably take up cooking or something. Roche.
See the names of all these young drivers. Whenever an opening comes up in Formula One, some of them, like Kobayashi, are already testing for Formula One teams. So is Sebastian Buemi, who has Red Bull sponsorship and therefore 2 full Formula One teams to work for. Of course, Scott Speed, who was a factor in this series back in 2005 before moving up to Formula One with the Scuderia Toro Rosso team, is now racing stock cars in the United States. Scott Speed took a pole position here at Barcelona. And this weekend, Scott won an ARCA Remax Series stock car race at Kansas Speedway. Did it coming from behind after an early pit stop for a window net that fell down. Well done, Scott, making his way in American racing. Big gap from Grosjean to Baez now, as you pointed out, David.
Baez now falling into the clutches of Sebastian Buemi and Kobayashi.
Maldonado up to 12th after starting from pole, stalling on the grid.
Having a good run.
Expected more out of Luca Filippi this weekend. He's another veteran.
Yes. What are we going to see here?
Well, something juicy, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Somebody making some grotesque mistake.
It's Kobayashi just kind of over braking for the hairpin. One of the supernovas in the pit lane. This is Christian Backerud. Or back and forth, or backing in, or
driving in, or
making the pit stop without end. That makes it, what, 6 cars out of the race right now. Race leader Alvaro Parente with Bruno Senna just behind, and 16 laps to go. 15 when they pass the flag stand.
Wow, he is just behind too. Bruno Senna had a fantastic year in British Formula 3 in 2006.
That's right.
Did not distinguish himself last year particularly. Had some good runs, but also made a lot of really bad mistakes. And, so he needs to redeem himself this year.
Everybody thought he really was the next coming.
In fact, he won
great uncle.
He won the GP2. Yeah, right, exactly. He won the GP2 race here last year, but that was his only win.
Yep. He went off and raced sports cars, swept all before him, as you mentioned, a great Formula 3 career, and then just somehow lost the plot at GP2 last year.
And that British Formula 3 is sort of, you know, always reckoned as the ace series behind this.
Well, that's part of the fun of GP2, the varied backgrounds of these drivers. All sorts of Formula 3 series, World Series by Renault, Italian F3000, you name it. The only thing we lack is an American or two. So come on, you young drivers from the States. Parente can hold on. He'll strike a blow for his Portuguese countryman. The last Portuguese driver to win at this level, Pedro Lamy at Pau in France, 1993 in the old Formula 3000 series.
Good. Great.
Pedro Lamy driving for
time goes
Peugeot,
by so quickly, doesn't it? It's just kind of mad. Pedro Lamy, 1993.
Yeah.
I thought he was last year's driver.
Before he went on to Team Lotus in Formula 1.
Yeah.
His Senna keeps closing up on Parente through that last section, round the third sector of the track, and then just cannot seem to get close enough to do anything about it. This is something we've seen with the F1 cars, guys, yesterday in qualifying. You know, the McLarens, that the first 2 sectors are fast, then you lose it. Well, in this case, Bruno seems to be able to run fairly well in that last sector and the tight stuff, but he just loses the speed. Oh,
someone needing, that's Christian Backerud. Recall he had a back injury last year. When he came in, his head was sort of tilted over driver's right in the car. I hope he hasn't hurt himself badly.
Oh, wow.
See how his head is leaning over?
Yeah.
This is on board with Grosjean, passing Baez for 5th.
wow, look at the tires.
That's Vitaly Petrov he's passing.
Yeah.
It's Vitaly Petrov he's passing, not Baez. Baez is, or he dusted him off before, but Petrov had a huge lead on him.
But Petrov has all kinds of spooge all over the right shoulders, the outside shoulders of all of his tires. I think he may have been off somewhere.
Well, of course, the other thing, too, don't forget, all these guys made their compulsory pit stop on the second lap of a 38-lap race. So, you know, it's always, I mean, yes, you know, you should do it from a strategic point of view because the pace car's out and you might not get another one, but by the same token, you've got to do the entire race on those tires.
Let's go back to Backerud's pit stop, and there's that head lean I was telling you about.
Oh, boy.
He's obviously in some pain at this point. That explains why he's going so slowly.
Oh, that must be so. He has my total sympathy. I can tell you, it was a back injury that put me out of Formula 1. Oh, it makes my back hurt just to look at him.
Yeah, not good.
No.
Took him out of 4 races last year, did the back injury, and I just hope he hasn't re-aggravated it. Speaking of Pedro Lamy and Team Lotus, do you remember who his teammates were over the years before Lotus went under? How about Mika Hakkinen? Johnny Herbert at one point.
I was going to say Johnny Herbert, yeah.
The good old days. Up front it remains Parente and Senna. followed by Zuber and Pantano. We'll be back to Barcelona. 11 laps to go in the GP2 feature race season opener at Barcelona. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs and Steve Matchett. This is Sebastian Buemi trying to go down the inside of Adrian Vaez. Can't do it there. Oh, meanwhile, look at the queue behind Buemi. That's Kabui Kobayashi. Next in line, then Karen Shandok, the winner at Spa last year. And then Pastor Maldonado, our pole sitter, who fell way back at the start.
That was Maldonado just going wide there, I think. There he is, comes back again, collecting himself together.
Buemi is 8th, Vaez 7th. And remember, 8th place will be the pole sitter for the sprint finale, when they invert the top 8 from today's finishers.
I think Buemi would rather be on the outside of the front row than on pole at the moment. He wants to get by Vaez. Because look at that. Whoa, 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 that ain't gonna work.
This is Kobayashi and Shandok. See the gaps up front. Giorgio Pantano falling off the pace of the 3 front runners, and Zuber is catching Bruno Senna for second. You mentioned it earlier, David. It's all about tires at this point. Everybody stopped early. They may be getting a little threadbare.
Yeah, and whoever managed their tires better after that will now be looking. Look at this lot here, 22 gap. 22 seconds right back to 25 there in the 4th spot.
That is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all nose to tail. You can be sure they are all painfully aware of the importance of 8th place. Luca Filippi.
David Balsecchi there in the blue and yellow car. He went off at the chicane earlier on when he got caught out of that fracas with D'Ambrosio. Luca Filippi, pretty experienced at this level of racing. Should be able to dust off a guy doing his first race.
Balsecchi is a pretty dependable point scorer. If the Asia GP2 series was any indication, scored in 4 out of his most recent 5 races. He's going to have to get to 10th to score here. Right now he's 12th.
See him come back to a bit of a status quo. Senna close, but not close enough to get around Parent. And Andrea Zuber dropped back just a bit. Grosjean not made any on the leader.
Make that 8th place, the final points paying position.
Well, 9 laps to go. These guys are duking it out, so there could be a huge crash anytime now as they all run into each other. But Grosjean is, I don't think he's going to be able to catch Giorgio Pantano. He's 7 seconds behind him and has stayed about the same there for a couple of laps now, so I don't think he's going to make any ground on him.
Not quite desperation time.
Baez desperately holding up Buemi. Buemi really,
ooh, that looked
right
close.
behind him now.
Kobayashi coming up from behind.
Yeah, right, Kobayashi right behind him, so Buemi very anxious to get past Adrian Baez.
No word yet of anybody ducking into the pits looking for a fresh set of Bridgestones and trying to pick up that bonus. Yeah.
Well, none of these guys are going to stop.
No, absolutely. It'll be somebody well back.
Yeah, right. Somebody like Maldonado, who's
right.
Probably worth his while stopping.
Yeah, you're right. From 12th, that's probably a pretty good plan. If he can't pick anything up in the next 4 or 5 laps.
I mean, he's not going to come 8th, is he?
No, I don't think.
Not unless this lot all end up in smoking fiberglass and carbon fiber.
That's right. A string here.
This just in.
I mean, this is tight racing. I mean, I know you're not seeing any overtaking, and people love to see overtaking, but this sort of racing really gets the hair on the back of my head going. Well, what hair I've got on the back of my head, because it's pretty intense racing, I tell you. Kobayashi's got a good toe here on Buemi.
Ooh, is he close enough?
No,
Right.
the side pod of Buemi's car on the left-hand side of the car. You see it's all black and unpainted. It's like kind of unstickered carbon from the accident yesterday in qualifying. They've had to change that part of the bodywork. It's different. The one on the right-hand side with all the decals and stickers on it. It sure has sponsorship.
Well, it was in practice yesterday. He was going by somebody at that very fast right-hand sweep at the top of the hill, and he got eased off. Now it's Grosjean.
Oh! Romain Grosjean. A little too much curb, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yes. That'll unsettle it.
Puts a lot of load on everything and unsettles the car, but he managed to get it all together again.
I've got it.
There's Pastor Maldonado, the Dominator. And he is the championship.
Whoa,
Inside. Yeah! Jeez, I thought it was such a great idea at the time. So instead he loses one. Maldonado up to 11. It's Valsecchi in the blue and yellow car, and Luca Filippi in the red and white one.
It seemed like such a good idea at the time.
Yep. That's the kind of thing that could have a big impact on the final results of this race. Okay, let's
Impact
see.
being the operative word.
Nope, nobody feeling especially brave. Oh, Buemi closing up a bit.
He is.
This is what we were
It's in
talking
line.
about earlier on. Look at the difference on the side pods.
Look at the difference in the racing
Baez
line.
goes wide there. Buemi having to think about it. No, maybe not. This is where Buemi went off yesterday.
Oh, up
Meanwhile,
Oh, Perete
here
and
he is
Senna.
again, look. Now, what can you do with it from there? Because again, we're time and time again, we've seen him get up close, Senna get up close in that third sector and just not be able to take. Look at it again.
He just doesn't come off
No.
the corner just quite quick enough.
He spends 99% of the lap making up for this lost ground that'll happen right here.
And the reason he makes that is because he follows him too closely going in. He lifts off, otherwise he's going to run into the back of him. And then, of course, when they nail it coming out, he's down a few hundred RPM. I'm sure that's what he's doing.
Meanwhile, to the battle for seventh, Sebastian Buemi pulling up behind Baez. Looks like he got him.
It goes down the inside. Baez this time making no of those moves that he did earlier on. Goes down the inside, pulls off a very clean path.
Oh.
I think that's Maldonado going off the inside.
And losing a spot to Karen Shandok. And the Indian driver will want a piece of this battle, chasing Kobayashi and Baez. Still jam-packed over on the backside. Oh, under it's Kobayashi on Baez. Got him.
Yeah, got him.
That was a great pass. So Baez has lost 2 spots in the last 4 corners. Woo!
Yeah, lock up.
And now here comes Karen Shandok. Baez suddenly losing pace. Whoops, somebody off, driver left. And Shandok goes by the slowing Baez. Oh, and that almost caught out Pastor Maldonado, who loses a position to David Valsecchi. And Luca Filippi in the red-white car from ART Grand Prix is now all over the pole sitter.
Whoa. Baez there, David Valsecchi right behind him now. Goes down the inside. Yeah. Oh,
Baez just has dropped anchor out there.
Maybe his tires are completely shot.
Well, I was looking at, I was trying to gauge the tyre wear on the car on that shot. We couldn't really see.
No.
I mean, we've seen cords on these tyres earlier on.
Something's happened to him. He's just lost so much pace.
Man. We'll take another break in a moment. Stand by for more from the GP2 opening round in Barcelona. 4 laps to go in the GP2 season opener at Barcelona. Adrian Vaez continues to slow down. And we've got some great battles going on in the midfield. Back up front, meanwhile, there's Alvaro Parente, who has led since the safety car came in 8 laps into this race. And Bruno Senna has been right there the whole time.
Yeah, it's because he comes off that chicane just a bit too slow, so he's just too far behind at this point to get the best effect of the draft.
Parente has been a revelation in his debut in GP2, qualified on the front row next to Pastor Maldonado, and then took off into the race lead, got his pit stop done early, assumed the lead on the pit stop rotation, and hasn't been headed since. And he's been under pressure, as I mentioned, from that man, Bruno Senna, pretty much the whole way.
Well, everybody made their pit stop and did that change early, but some people have obviously managed it a lot better than others. Pastor Maldonado, who dropped the back after stalling on the grid, had got himself up as high as like 8th or 9th, but he has suddenly started to lose ground again, so I think he's run his tyres off.
Yeah, we've got to assume it's that, David. We look at Vaez's tyres earlier on, and I expected to see them either blistered or graining very badly. There was nothing on them, and there was usual wear contact patch you see across the tyre, but nothing to indicate they're absolutely rooted.
There's Parente.
His tyres look okay.
They better get used to seeing this guy. World Series by Renault champion last year, but only won 2 races, so he's obviously very consistent. Podium will be considered a step forward for Bruno Senna. As we mentioned last year, after winning at the season opener, he just couldn't seem to put a run of good races together. Lots of mistakes in qualifying and on the racetrack.
He didn't look anywhere near as close coming out of the chicane on that last lap.
Grosjean picked up a lot of time now on Giorgio Pantano, but I fear in 2 laps ago he's never going to catch up 3 seconds.
The gap back to 6th. Petrov still cruising along, all by himself now. This is up front. Parente and Senna. Is he going to make a mistake here? Whoa!
There it is. Yeah. That's why they weren't as close coming off that last lap.
Certain lowering of the adhesion quotient.
So it seems like Bruno Senna's tyre is looking worse than Parente.
Well, of course, Parente's been running in relatively clean air,
right,
and able to get best use out of the wings. And although these cars this year are more aerodynamically efficient, should be able to run closer to each other than last year's cars. Nevertheless, I think Bruno Senna's just been running too close to Parente.
Vaez finally pits after slowing and slowing and slowing. Is he going to try a fast lap attempt here? And they went to the fronts, not the rears. What if they're going to change all 4?
I think they're going to change all 4.
Yeah,
probably.
you'd have to. Bruno Senna drawing close. There'll be 1 lap to go this time by. Does he have a plan?
Has Vaez got time to do the fast lap?
Oh, Senna not bad off the corner that time. But he's nowhere near close enough. While Zuber, as you see, a little over 2nd behind Senna, seems content to grab the final podium spot.
Qualified 3rd, finishing 3rd.
Senna sliding around a lot. Contrast to Formula One, where the margins of victory here at Barcelona are normally fairly large. GP2 racing has always been close. We've seen last lap passes. Giorgio Pantano over Sebastian Bourdais back in the days of Formula 3000. See what Senna, no, I don't think he's got the car under him that he needs. You got 1 more chicane and then the right-hand sweeper onto the front straightaway. This will be the first win for a Supernova in a time.
Boy, he nearly lost it then.
To the line and to the checkers, Álvaro Parente of Portugal. The first debut GP2 winner since Heikki Kovalainen a couple of seasons ago. Senna second, Zuber third, then Giorgio Pantano, then Roman Grosjean. Here comes the Russian, Vitaly Petrov.
He had a pretty stout run, really, Petrov. He got held up by Valles there for quite a long time. There you see all the clag that's collected on the edge of the track. Right to last, Filippi trying to get past Valeschi.
And the rest streaming across the line after a hard-fought race. There's your unofficial top four. We'll be back for the podium ceremony. Welcome back to Barcelona. As Álvaro Parente leads Bruno Senna and Andy Zuber onto the podium. Time for the anthems. And by the way, we are informed that Parente also picked up the bonus point for fast lap. So 11 points rather than 10 to the race winner. I'm sure the protocol police will talk with these young drivers about where to stand and how quiet to be during national anthems in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bad news for that man, Álvaro Parente, is that no opening race winner in the European GP2 Championship has gone on to win the title. Bruno Senna in second place can take comfort from the fact that the last two championships have gone to the second place finisher in the first race of the season. With a big smile, maybe he knows that. So there's your top three. We'll get ready for the sprint race. Highlights coming your way, as well as results of today's feature event after the break. Stay with us.
Jimmy Johnson rolled the dice at Phoenix and returned Hendrick Motorsports to victory lane. Today, NASCAR race day hits the high banks at Talladega.
What a wild, wild afternoon we are in for.
You will not see a better race.
Where bump drafting is a way of life.
Racing, wrecking, and repair.
Welcome back to the Circuit of Catalunya near Barcelona, Spain on the opening weekend of the GP2 Championship for 2008 here on Speed. Highlights of the sprint finale for the weekend coming up, but first, here are the results of the feature race.
Portuguese driver Álvaro Parente for Supernova, iSports Bruno Senna second, Andreas Zuber for PK Sports third, then Pantano, Roman Grosjean, everybody says he's going to be the man of the season. We have to see that. Vitaly Petrov, the Russian, Sebastian Buemi for Arden. And there you see the rest of the runners. Karan Shandok from India.
Here's our runners 10 through 18. A lot of these guys struggling with tyre management due to that very early pit stop there. A lot of miles on those tyres towards the end of the race. All of these fellas out of the points. Ben Henley there for Campos Racing. Roldan Rodriguez, FMS 23.
And with that, here are the highlights of the sprint finale. We invert the top 8 for 29 laps of racing. Kamui Kobayashi pushes Sebastian Buemi wide, allowing Roman Grosjean, the white car, to take second. Giorgio Pantano takes fourth from Petrov.
And he's off on the way in GP2. Alberto Valerio and Diego Nunes still on the grid. Then Karan Shandok gets spun by Luca Filippi and not hit by anybody else, which is amazing. Andy Zuber and Pastor Maldonado, teammates for PK Sports, side by side there.
Lap 1 leads into lap 2. Here's Grosjean passing Kobayashi for the lead. Pulls that move off, and very nice it is too. Here's Buemo and Pantano running third and fourth. And just to give evidence that Formula One does watch GP2, Robert Kubica cheering on Pantano.
Look at this, Zuber and Maldonado again tangling wheels. through that downhill left-hander. Grosjean by now had a big lead, 7 seconds at one stage. He also did the fastest lap of the race by 0.8 of a second, but that got taken away from him. Here's Ricci spinning down at the chicane, and look at this, Grosjean, our leader, just misses him, and that brings out the safety car.
Then on the restart, Grosjean gives Kobayashi a taste of his own medicine, driving him driver's left. Meanwhile, Zuber and Maldonado, those teammates, well, they decided they'd finish the job, and believe it or not, they took each other out of the race. Wouldn't you have liked to have been in that team motorhome afterward? The officials took a dim view of Grosjean's aggressive driving on the restart, so they gave the Frenchman a drive-through penalty, which dropped him back down the order. And that allowed Kamui Kobayashi to come through and take the victory, the first at this level for a Japanese driver ever, as his star continues to rise. Here are the final results.
There you see Kobayashi at the top of the field there. Sebastian Buemi coming back for second. Giorgio Pantano hanging in there for third. Bruno Senna fourth. David Valsecchi from Durango in fifth there. Javier Villa, Alvaro Parente, and Mike Conway and Ben Hanley. A couple of English guys there.
Runners through 10 to 18 there. Andrea Enveas, Roman Grosjean there for ART, 13th. Popintung for Trident, 14th. The rest of the runners, 19 through to 25. Last on the list there, Filippi for ART.
Now here are the Drivers' Championship points after one complete weekend.
A couple of guys at the top there, Alvaro Parente, Bruno Senna, equal on 11, and 9 for Pantano. Kobayashi, 8. Sebastian Buemi, there you see the rest of the runners. David Valsecchi, a newcomer, for 2.
And now to the team championship standings.
There it is, Supernova Racing, 11 points on the board, and second with the same number of points, iSport International, but only 1 point behind the first and second on the board. Racing Engineering with 10, then 8 and 8 for PK Sports and Dams. And then right at the bottom, Durango with 2 on the board, 9th on the list.
2 races down, 17 to go. And with that, the Spanish round of the GP2 Championship comes to a close. Join us again in 2 weeks for the GP2 races in Istanbul, Turkey on the Formula One weekend. Our coverage begins at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, May 11th. But right now, don't go anywhere. The Formula One Spanish Grand Prix from Barcelona is coming up next. For David Hobbs and Steve Matchett, I'm Bob Varsha. Stand by. The Spanish Formula One Grand Prix begins now.